Call 219. First of all, I want to say that is you're going to be hearing some water and you're going to be hearing some other stuff going on. There's a lot that's happening. But this video is going to be about the incident that happened at the mall down in over by Indianapolis. As everybody knows, my home state is Indiana. I like Indiana. It's been good to me for the majority of my life, coming in and out of living here for so long, for the vast majority of the last 10-20 years. But there's certain things that transpired that we can go over. But one of the biggest things that I want to say is this is why myself, others in the state, people that lobbied for constitutional carry to be implemented. This is a great example of it. A lot of other people around YouTube are going to do this, and it's going to be the little meme of Leonardo DiCaprio. But that's what they're going to do. They're always going to use this as an example. But what they fail to realize is we talk about this on the Right of the People at the end of every show. At the end of every show, Mike from MK Outdoor Journal, he goes through a bunch of self-defense stories. This like the GunTube world, they're going to be like, oh, see, I told you so, just like that picture. And it happens a lot more often. A lot of the comments that I've been seeing on social media, any social media site that you pick that has run this story is, oh, well, this guy got lucky. Or, well, one good guy with a gun. Those could be further from the truth. These are kind of, I guess a paradigm, a left talking point of good guy with a gun. A lot of people have said this about Uvalde, about those were the good guys with the guns and they didn't do anything, so on and so forth. But this is a prime example of why you should carry a firearm. This is a prime example of we're living in a different day and age. These kids are not responding to criticisms, to hardships in life, to failing. And this is showing. This scumbag was 20 years old. And I'll continue to call them scumbags and try and not use so much foul language until Wednesday nights. But this is a great example of how this generation is just not coping. They're not coping with failures. They're not coping with, flaws within themselves. And this has a lot to do with parenting on the backside of this. Parents are not teaching their kids how to, again, cope with these things that I've just explained. It's showing. And it's showing in a violent tendency. I just read in Chicago, people got in a scuffle over stepping on a shoe, and the person was shot. He survived, but he was shot because he stepped on somebody's shoe. These were young kids. Again, mentality is not there. And they're not, the younger generation, I'm sorry, is not making a great case for them being able to buy a firearm. And I want to caution young people about that. Again, I don't believe it's right. If we're going to say the age of an 18-year-old is comparable to voting and carrying firearms and being an adult, they're sure as hell not showing it. I mean, I know tons of adults that even nowadays they don't act right, but this is not giving a good case for them, and this is only building the case for politicians on either side, and especially the high-profile gun grabbers to say, look, 18, 19, and 20-year-olds cannot have firearms, and this is a prime example why. I haven't heard it come out yet. Maybe I shouldn't be letting the cat out of the bag, but soon enough it'll come. But I think the younger generation needs to understand that. I think we can overcome this. They need to slow their process down. I think I do that a lot at work, where I try and slow the process down for myself so I can, think through this stuff. They're not doing that. They are just, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am type of stuff. it's a growing concern. It's a growing concern now in me, looking at the ages of these kids that are doing this, and now it's becoming really, repetitive. Again, we don't know the whole facts. I'm not going to sit in here and tell you that these were the main reasons, but the majority of cases that have already played out, that we've already seen happen, even now that the scumbags going to court for the Parkland killings, you can see that this guy had that same mentality, casted out from society, multiple incursions with the police departments there, and just thought he has no self-worth. And that's a problem, and that's a reoccurring problem that I'm seeing. How to solve it, I don't know. I'm not a therapist, I'm not a psychotherapist, and I'm not somebody that's well-rounded and well-versed in there. My mom was in psychiatry, actually has I believe a master's in it, but I mean, I guess I could go ask her questions, but she's a little long in the tooth anyway. But looking at these scenarios, getting back to the point at hand, this is a strict in I don't know how big of a warning you need to carry a firearm, to go and practice with that firearm. I've mentioned this not only to family members, but several people. And a guy yesterday I mentioned this to is, it's okay, so you have this firearm. You're going to have to know how to use this thing and be proficient with it, or be as proficient with it as you can be. Getting into a shootout is something I highly don't recommend. But as the story flows in from this kid was right there. There's nowhere to go at this point. And you have no choice. You have no choice at this point. And another left talking point is like, well, you go run towards there. Well, you got to look at the scenario. Are you going to be causing more harm? What if you get there and the police get there and you arrive with your gun out and the police don't know? See, they don't go through those kinds of scenarios inside their heads. They just use their talking points to do that. But I go through those scenarios of what would happen if this was to occur, or that would happen here. I go through those scenarios in my mind. I don't know if that's old school or if you do it at home, but this was right there, right in his face, and there was nowhere to go from some of the reports I'm reading at this point. If people might have different sources of media, but this is coming from Indiana news. So I'll say the kid's name. His name's Elijah Dicken. He's 22 years old. He's from Seymour, Indiana. This is the kid that shot the other kid. He was 22 years old. This kid was 20 years old. The scumbag that started this. Look at the age frames here. We're not too far off in between. We have a 2-year difference in these two people, but yet these two people have dramatically gone through two different cycles in life. Until we kind of figure out, and I don't want to sit here and speculate on what's going through this kid's mind, what's happening in his family, but that seems to be a little bit of the trend that I've seen in the recents that we've just witnessed, and in past actions that these killers have done. Is bad home life. They feel no self-worth. They feel like they can't accomplish things in life, and they definitely can't handle criticism or failure. And I don't know if this is part of it with this particular incident and this particular piece of trash, but that's my speculation on it. Again, there's more has to come out, and sometimes I fear about it. And what I mean by that is, when people get a hold of stuff, when they're politicians, when they're, police departments, sometimes it doesn't work out the way that we think it is or the way it should be. Let's just put it that way. And we're kind of, thrusted into a big hodgepodge of a little bit of nonsense, like we've went through with the Uvalde stuff. That was S show at the beginning, at the middle and what we're finding out right here at the climax of that horrible day. So again, you know, I'm trying to sift through the garbage to get to the real root and causes of problems that we're seeing in society today. So this scumbag shot 24 rounds. They said they collected 24 rounds. From Mr. Dickin, they collected 10. And this goes into, a lot of people have talked about it on live shows I've been on, live shows that I've watched, and made multiple videos about it. How many rounds should you carry? A lot of people say, you know, a revolver is so sufficient. I carry a revolver when I'm not going to be out in great lengths of time. If I'm walking around a mall or something of that stature, I'm carrying a gun that's double stacked, 15 rounds or more. That's just my preference. I don't know about your preference. And again, you know, this will encapsulate back to training. How well are you with this gun that you're carrying? So he took him down with 10 rounds. 10 rounds. The kid, again, had a rifle. It was a SIG. They misspelled it horrible in the articles. I'll put this stuff that I found in my community tab. Community tab is very useful. They spelt it wrong. They butchered. They put 6 and then something that's supposed to be sour. You know, 6 hour. You know, it's horrible. It's butched and it's written like a 3-year-old. But again, you know, I'm going through all this information. And this was one of the articles I came upon. So now you see what we're you know up against, you know, in these scenarios. Being outgunned is something that you really don't want to be in a firefight. Been there, done it, dude. It doesn't quite work out well for certain parties in certain instances. So there's a good scenario. How many rounds should you carry? We'll probably see about 70 of those videos coming out here. Well, this guy here we'll go back to the picture. See, you know, you can't carry a revolver. You can't carry this. I mean, who knows? What are you going to encounter? Encountering this type of situation is, again, rare. This is rare. And a lot of people say, well, it's happened this many times. Yeah, but look at the periods and increments between all these mishaps with a rifle. It's, you know, the majority of crimes that are committed throughout the research I've done have been committed with handguns. That's one of the biggest things that's going on in Chicago right now, is all these crimes that are being committed with handguns. There is instances that people are using rifles. They're using, you know, Dracos. They're using these guns, but it's a low volume of it. And again, these things are an anomaly where people are actually using rifles to do damage to the population. It's the statistics are there. Is it starting to creep into common use? I would have to differ, because I've seen a lot of people, like some of the people like the Navy veteran or whatever he was, that piece of trash who shot people on a base with a handgun. I believe that's what that man used, unless I'm getting another one mixed up, because there was a couple shootings on a couple military bases. I know 2 or 3 of them were used with a handgun. So I mean, again, we'll have to look at those statistics together and research them together, or hopefully another YouTuber will come out with some of this research. But looking at this format, I mean, I don't know what to tell people, what to carry all the time, every time. That's, you know, that's up in the air. But encountering this type of action, man, I mean, who knows? Who knows what you can and cannot do in situations like this? How, you know, there's a lot of factors. How close are you to it? Are you going to run a great length to it? Are you right there in the middle of it like this kid was? There's really, you know, I look at it that way as I talk about this encounter that I had with a lady at a grocery store. Like, she was, you know, trying to mock me for carrying a gun, but I told her, if we're stuck in a situation, I'm going to have a way out. And I mean, you have the same capability. You have the same constitutional right as I do. I just choose to use it because I know and I've seen and I've been a victim of scumbags. It's happened. It's happened to me, and I don't want to become a victim anymore. It's heartbreaking in these cases, but it's also heartbreaking with people who survive these encounters, because it's always in the back of your mind. You're always going through a little bit of a scenario of, is this going to happen again? Is somebody acting kind of funky and wonky? So, I mean, my gun is there for me and my family. That's why my gun is there. My gun isn't necessarily there to protect these people around me, because we all... Now, imagine if Elijah wasn't the only one. I mean, it's astounding to watch Secret Service agents, militaries, and everybody else protect all these old codgers and these people that screw the finances and the well-beings of government up, and then watching how we protect our money. It's so astounding to me that we take more pride in that than protecting our own lives. And, pointing the blame at an inanimate object. But this object is the equalizer in these situations. And this is a great example of it. Like when the Buffalo scumbag did stuff, before Uvalde, everybody's like, well, where's the good guy with the gun? You're not going to beat this guy with a handgun, because he's got a rifle. Well, proved you wrong again. And a lot of this has to go in, how proficient are you with your gun? Again, we don't know this kid's level of training, exercise, and all the things that he's done with this gun, but he put the rounds where they counted. And I think that's way, way important to factor in as you're shooting targets. When I shoot targets, I try to put the rounds where they need to go. That's the whole thing. A lot of people are like, oh, you'd shoot all willy-nilly. No, I would try and put the rounds where they needed to go as quick as possible. And that's where I see training take hold in some aspects. Again, we don't know the level of training this kid has gotten, but he put the rounds where they had to go. He had to use 10 of them. I don't care how many rounds it takes to wipe one of these people out of society, but, it is what it is. And this, again, moves the left's position on the talking about of capping capacity in magazines. They talk about capping capacities in magazines. Well, you only need, when we watch the one senator talk about different magazines that couldn't go into guns and stuff. Well, they wanted to give you just 5 rounds. It took 10 rounds to take this piece of trash down. So what does that tell you? What if it took 12? What if it took 15? What if they didn't even find a casing because it rolled up underneath something and he actually shot 12 or 11 times? See, we have to wait until all this comes out, but these are just the preliminary numbers that I have now. Is he shot 10 times. 10 times is okay. More, like a lot of people talk about instances of shooting is six rounds or less or whatever. Took 10 rounds. So again, until your heart rate is pumping 4,000 miles an hour and there's actually physical carnage happening around you, you're never really going to know how you're going to react to these situations. It's important to keep these factors in mind. It's important to start reaching out to people in communities, kids that are having a hard time. This stuff is all playing a role. And if you're not seeing that this is playing a role and you're playing this is a false flag scenario, I don't want you here, because it's not. It's not a false flag scenario. It's a problem in society. Parenting is huge, and it's a huge role to play. And when you don't play that role, we see people like the scumbags that have been doing these outlandish crimes, these killings, and it's evident. It's right there. And it's even more evident when they have interactions with government and government doesn't report these interactions, or they do and they just sweep it under the rug. So I'm well aware of the situation. I'm still waiting for it to shake out. I have some other stuff. I'll throw all that into the community tab so you can look at what I'm kind of researching. The article, again, I'm only going to post a couple things from this one and go back to some other ones that we're going to discuss on Wednesday night because this one was really butchered in what they were trying to get their point across. But again, this is a great example of, you should, if you're going to be out for, this is just my opinions, what I think. If you're going to be out for a long time, if you're going to be out walking malls, walking this and walking that, walking trails, you better have a good substantial amount of rounds on you. Now, if you're going to carry a revolver, make sure you have speed strips, speed loaders. Give yourself a chance. Unless you're carrying a 686 or you're carrying something that has a huge capacity for a revolver, like a 686 plus, I mean, that's a big gun to carry. You're going to have to start looking at options here. Me, again, when I'm out and about and I'm going to be out for a long length of time, I'm carrying a gun that's going to give me good capacity on each magazine. Because, again, I mean, I can sit here and talk all day, but I can tell you, when I go and shoot, I miss. I'm not editing videos. I'm missing. And some of those things I'm missing for certain reasons other than not, and that's not under stress. So you have to put that into situations. One drill I like to do is, get the blood pumping, get the heart going, and then shoot. And then trying to concentrate on hitting the target. Training is another thing that you should be doing. Not only carrying a pretty good gun, a good capacity size gun if you're going to be out for a long term, like walking malls. I mean, I don't know if you've ever been in a mall. I've been in the mall with my wife, and I'm telling you right now, dude, we can be there for a while, especially if we're dragging along some kids. So prepare yourself for this stuff. Prepare yourself for these types of situations. The last thing that I want to leave you with is be aware. Head on a swivel. I don't know how many times I'm looking, or if I sit at a restaurant, I sit facing the door. I don't sit facing an exit. Or I'm moving into a spot where I know I could, if something would happen, I'm going this way or I'm going that way. I'm going to try and move around. I'm going to try and gain an edge. I got to gain an edge if something bad happens. And some people will be like, that's paranoia. Is it? I don't think it's paranoia. I think I'm preparing myself because I know that these things happen in society. These things happen in my state. They happen in a lot of people's states. It can happen anywhere at any time. You have to be focused. It's great to have good times. It's fun to do that stuff. There's a reason why I don't go to bars anymore. There's a reason why I don't drink in public anymore. There's a reason for this stuff. And if I'm at home, that's where that stuff pertains to, for reasons. Because I want to be as alert as possible about my surroundings and who's in them. Because you never know. You never know. This kid, again, one little tidbit out of this article, this kid sat in a bathroom in that food court 62 minutes. I don't know what he was doing in there for 62 minutes, if he was writing a manifesto, if he was posting to social medias, because I guarantee you he's taking some stuff down. Hopefully somebody's found him, but usually it's right away, and then they start taking it down as they go. Well, they have a jump on who this kid was right off the get-go from what I'm reading out of some articles. They already knew who he was, so they're already probably going through the process of taking social media now because they just released his name today. And this is a day after. So there you go. So they have a leg up on us on that. So we can't really peer into what we have been able to do with some of these scumbags. I think that might be protocol now for police departments and other people. Is to hurry up and clamp this down, and we'll give you the heads up when we feel the need that you need this information, and that's a scary part about it. So Though, follow those things. Don't follow them. These are just my recommendations. That's all they are, is recommendations. But I don't know how more I can stress to you now than ever before. And if you're thinking about carrying, bring somebody along that has experience in firearms and carrying firearms. Do some training. Keep a good head on your shoulders. And, carry a gun. I don't know how many more times I can tell family members or complete and utter strangers, carry a gun. I'd like to thank my new subscribers, and just the people that zip through. I greatly do appreciate it. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Do that for everybody that you watch on every piece of social media that you attend to, including myself. Like always, guys, stay safe. Keep your heads on the swivel. And like always, we'll catch you on the next one.